It was kind of like I was like Hannah Montana. Like we'd go to a movie premiere and I'd be like dressed up on the red carpet, posing with my family, feeling like, wow, we're living the dream, and then go back to school and I'm just trying to get an A in algebra.
Welcome back, everyone, to Do I Know You? My name is Jordy Ray, and I created this show because I wanted to create a safe space for siblings and children of celebrities to get together, be real, be honest, cry, laugh, do everything in between. And today I'm so honored to have, I'm claiming you as my sister now, as a guest onto the show. So, you guys are probably very familiar with her dad, Terry Crews, actor, host, White Chicks, the most iconic lines he probably gave them to us, but there's tons of interviews about him, and this is really not the space. I am more focused on his wonderful, lovely daughter, Azriél Crews, who has joined us today, who has quite the resume, which we will get into. But Azriél, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Jordy, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yes. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
to have you.
And I'm so
Okay.
glad you created this space for us, like for this
Ooh.
community. It's such a niche community of people. So,
Girl, thank you. I'm so honored that God would let me even have this like dream. It's so funny
yeah.
because so many people I talk to, they're like, this is going to be too niche. Like, you need to expand it. It needs to be like cousins or friends or whatever. And I'm like, honestly, I'm not really in this for fame. I'm in this for the friendship, for the safety of it
Mhm.
all. And so, like, I'm totally okay with it being too niche. Like, that's totally fine.
And honestly, it's not that niche. There are like, it's like there are so many celebrities. They all have relatives. Like, there's a lot of people out there who have to deal with
Exactly.
this. Yeah.
And I always tell people to watch the show knowing that yes, we celebrate identity from like a sibling or children of celebrity like lens. However,
Mhm.
think about your whole life. Like, you know, people that are attached to their jobs, attached to their boyfriend, their girlfriend, like everyone's attached to something and that's okay. But like, who are you at your core? That's really what this show is about. And so we're just using a
Mm.
really niche lens to talk about a very universal topic.
Love that. Absolutely
Yeah.
love it. I'm ready to dive in.
Let's go, girl. Okay, so I'm just very intrigued by you because your bio is actress, singer, writer. Y'all, just before this, she told me she modeled for something. So I just think it's really interesting. I'm like, wow, this is quite the resume. I have a lot to ask you, but I want to start with maybe like a super pointed question. So, what I found interesting was that you mentioned that you've been doing all this for nearly a lifetime. And I think when people think about Nepo babies, they think about, you know, family who has people that can like open the door for them. They're like, what do you mean been pursuing this for a lifetime? Like, you should just be able to walk in the door. Tell me
Mm.
about your journey. What has this looked like for you? Is that true for you?
Mm. Yeah, my journey, I something I say in one of my videos is that I actually wanted to be an actor before my dad did, which I think is a story that not a lot of like we don't hear a lot about Nepo babies who wanted to kind of pursue the career before their parents went into it. Because I was not born into a Hollywood family. Like my dad played in the NFL for the first 7 years of my life, and then was kind of just a working man for many years, and then got into acting and became successful kind of when I was in high school. And so I didn't really grow up in Hollywood from birth, which I think is a very different experience for that I have than some other sort of Nepo babies. And so, yeah, I wanted to be an actor before my dad even got into it. It was not actually his passion initially. We all moved to LA because he wanted to be a filmmaker, but he didn't ever think about becoming an actor. And he sort of kind of fell into it in a very serendipitous way. And I think when that happened, naturally I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. My dad has this in now, and now it's going to like open all these doors for me. And so I proceeded to kind of go, like, I think my parents really did want me to have a pretty normal high school experience. So I did just like stay in school. I didn't really go out and audition for things, but I did star in like all my high school musicals, and I did summer programs, and I trained. And I think that I really became this like serious actor. Like I really wanted to train. I wanted to learn history and theater and go to college for theater and all these things. And so, yeah, I think it's complicated because my father, I think at the time that he started to really blow up was around the time that I was deciding what I wanted to do long term with my life. And I had decided that I wanted to be an actress, but he was still sort of a jobbing actor himself at that point. So I think honestly he was just a little more focused on his career than mine. You know what I mean? He's out there trying to make the money for the family, and I'm over here like, can I get an audition for this and this and this? And he's like, well, I got to go work and I got to go do this. He didn't have time to be the dadager or whatever. But you know, I've told him this before that I wish you had done more because
Period.
I do think it's tough. I think at the end of the day, like I trained a lot and I really wanted to prove myself outside of what my dad's connections could bring. But at the end of the day, this industry really is all about connections. Like even if you're super talented, like it's not, you know, my dad's story of sort of being like plucked out of obscurity is actually incredibly rare. And I think in some ways that kind of gave me this like heightened expectation of what would happen to me. I was like, oh, well, since, you know, he's already in, I'm trained, it's going to be no problem. And like, it just isn't like that. I mean, add in the fact that I'm a woman, that I'm not skinny, you know, there's all these other factors that go into being a successful actor. And it doesn't always, you know, it's not a magic trick. It just isn't. Even when people think it should be, or, you know, they assume that you've had certain privileges that you may or may not have had behind the scenes, you know, nobody really knows what our relationships are like behind the scenes. So at the end of the day, it's not a magic trick. And that's part of why I wanted to kind of start talking about it, because there's been so many conversations around Nepo babies. And as soon as someone finds out that, you know, so and so's dad is a famous actor, they're like, oh, they just got handed this. And I'm like, you don't know that. Like, you actually don't know that. And don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that, like, you know, Nepo babies have it harder or anything like that. But because, you know, some people have said that. And I'm
Right.
like, that's not true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it may not have been as easy as you think, because you can't really, you can't always like network your way into like an amazing career. People still have to like you and still have to think you're worth watching, even if you're famous or connected to someone famous. So
Such a
that's a
good
little
point.
bit of my journey. I went to NYU for musical theater, studied, did all that, and just kind of tried to pursue acting kind of on my own, but you know, reaching out to my parents when I could or when they would offer to help. But truth be told, I've done most of this myself, and I think the opportunities that I have been given, I've tried to run with them. But at the end of the day, I feel very much like I've been in the trenches with every other actor, if that makes
Real.
sense. Yeah.
Like everything you're saying, I feel like I want to dive deep into. So let me first
Yeah.
ask you, okay, you're a theater kid. So let's start
Hmm.
there. I'm a
Yeah.
theater kid, except I'm
Yeah.
a theater kid without any talent. Like I'm a theater kid that like listens to Broadway to like get ready to go out, but like has no capability of like hitting those notes.
Okay, I love that. First of all, that is really, first of all, that's probably not true, but
Oh, babe, it
I
is. It is.
that makes me so happy, because I'm when my girlfriend and I met, she was not into theater, and I got her into it before now. And like now
Really?
she's out here like singing like theater songs even when I'm not. I'm like, girl, you were a theater kid that never was. Like, it was always within you. Like, I just unleashed it.
Like I put you on. Do not get it twisted. Like
Exactly, exactly. But
that's
yeah,
so
no. So yes,
funny.
I'm a theater kid through and through,
Yes.
and yes, so that's yeah.
So let me ask you this because this is something that I found. Maybe I'm projecting my own experience onto you. So I did theater in high school. And high school for me was like probably the toughest in grappling with identity because my brother was in the finals every year. It was just really,
Mm,
really weird. I felt like there was always so much coming at me. And I specifically, since my brother plays basketball, I got a lot of white men coming to me asking about like connections or asking, can I do this? And I'm like, baby,
mm,
I can't even do that. So why would you even do that? But I felt like theater kids were like my safe space. Like they didn't actually care about, you know, my
mhm,
basketball brother. They're like, what are the Warriors? Who is Steph Curry? And I love that. For you, I'm curious. Obviously, theater kids, your dad being an actor, it's a similar industry. Was
mhm.
that your safe space? Do you feel like you had to like maybe have a guard up a little bit? What was that like?
That's a really thoughtful question, actually. I Theater was my safe space. Like, that's hands down, that first things first, it was, because I think mainly because I'd always felt a little, like, to be honest, I was pretty shy as a kid. And so when I decided I wanted to be an actor, doing acting classes and stuff like that is what brought me out of my shell. And so the theater is where I felt safe to kind of explore my identity and my personality and put myself out there. And so by the time I got to high school, I spent my lunches in the theater room with my friends. It was like Glee. You know what I mean? Like when Glee came out, I was like, this is my life. Like we would just it was just all these sort of ragtag group of people from every sort of, demographic in the school. And I think that's what I loved about it was a little bit of everybody. We had a couple jocks in there, a couple of, people from the computer, whatever. It was just like all these cool people coming together to sing songs and kind of be goofy together. And so I definitely do think it was my safe space. And I also had a very amazing theater teacher, Jeff Martinez, who was such an inspiration. He really encouraged me to go for it when it came to theater specifically. Because prior to this, my father had been an actor in Hollywood, but theater was not really his thing. So, like, it's funny though, because my mother actually was a theater person. So I kind of grew up with
Oh.
some of that. She was a musical theater major in college. So she kind of instilled that in our home. But then when my dad got into acting, he wasn't really into that world. And so it did feel distant enough that it was like, this is he doesn't know nothing about musicals, like it's like this is not his lane at all. But it did feel safe for that in that way. But also I'd say I went to two different high schools. So my freshman year of high school, I was at a very large public high school, and that was right around the year that I think that was the year White Chicks came out, and so that started to get a little crazy with being at this very large public high school with mostly Black and brown students. I was starting to get really like a little bit harassed because as
Mm.
soon as people found out, it started to shift things a lot, and I couldn't just float through the school anymore. And I was a freshman, so I was really young. And my parents ultimately decided to put me in a private school just because things were starting to get a little hectic. And so I ended up at this private school, which was its own sort of bag of issues because it was like a mostly white, like very wealthy white school. So that was its own thing. So I found that it was interesting because even though my father was famous, I was with a lot of other wealthy kids, like people who had way more money than we did. Because when you're a working actor, you're not making as much money as people think you are. It took them a lot to pay for that school. But my dad was famous, and so it wasn't as big of a deal in some ways because like these people had like true generational wealth, and we were sort of like famous, but it wasn't really in the same. It didn't draw the same attention negatively in that way. So it was a
Mm.
trade off because ultimately I ended up at a school with some different issues, but I think ultimately the theater became my safe haven from all of that. And I really just threw myself into it and ended up taking it all the way through to college.
Wow, that is so incredible and super interesting. I mean, I was going to ask you, do you feel like kind of like how we have like BCAD, like, do you feel like there was a clear I don't know if it's White Chicks, if it's another show, like, was it pre fame, post fame, or was it like a gradual, like, this is getting a little weird?
Yeah, it was definitely gradual. I would say White Chicks really shifted things. I think it was what Friday After Next was one of the first ones he started to get recognized for. And when you're Black, we talk about this. Like he went from being Black famous to white famous by the time I like graduated high school, and that's a very distinct shift. It was like all the Black kids knew who he was from Friday After Next, and White Chicks and all these other movies. But then Everybody Hates Chris came out, and then even though that was a really Black show, it was nominated for Emmys and stuff. So it started to get this hype with, kind of more mainstream media. And then, as his career continued to expand, he started to get more well known by just like all kinds of people. And so, yeah, it was gradual. And it's interesting going through that in my teen years because, like, again, we grew up fairly like middle class, like just kind of like your typical like middle class Black family. And then suddenly we were like, thrust into this like fame that like people have a lot of expectations for what that life looks like, and it was not that different like outside of the like the star-studded events we'd go to. It was kind of like I was like Hannah Montana. Like we'd go to a movie premiere and I'd be like dressed up on the red carpet posing with my family feeling like wow, we're living the dream, and then go back to school and I'm just trying to get an A in algebra. Like it was just it was a very split life. And I have a lot of siblings. So like my younger siblings are quite a bit younger than me. So they actually grew up a lot more sort of like typical Nepo baby life. Like my brother was, born the year that White Chicks came out. So like he's never known a life outside of that. Whereas I kind of got to see the switch.
Wow. You're speaking my language. You're never going to be able to get rid of me as a friend. Let me first say that because I literally
I'm
always
already in it, girl. I need new friends.
period when we're locked in. Because I always say the best way to describe it is Hannah Montana. Like, it's just such a weird, and there's a distinction, right? It's not like you're being two-faced. It's not like there's
Yeah,
two different
no.
versions. It's just you experience two different realities, and it's
Hmm.
very hard to bring them into like it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah, it is two different realities. I mean, something I talked about I did a video on this crazy celebrity wedding that I went to where I got hit on by a creepy actor. And I kind of say at the end of the video that like this was not my typical life. I didn't know how to navigate situations like this because this was the most star-studded event I'd ever been to. I didn't know how to handle being shown attention from this like super famous person and I just was this like teenage girl who just popped up in this place and I think a
Wow.
lot of people would assume that like I don't know that it came more easily or something, but it definitely was like a shock, like to the system. It's
Mm.
a very different world than what the everyday person is kind of living.
Wow. Talk to me about your mom because something I try to do
Hmm.
on the show is even though you might have one celebrity parent, it's like
Hmm.
there's always somebody holding down the fort. There's always someone behind the scenes. Like, how did your mom, especially in that transition, support your family? Like, what
Yeah.
I'm sure that was hard for her to. Anything you want to share there?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, my parents have talked a lot about their marriage publicly, so I'll let them talk about that because they have a whole story. But what I will say is that my father had to be gone a lot, and I will say even when he was in the NFL, that was kind of the life. So my mother held down the fort most of my life, and once we got a little older and maybe had some more resources, that's when she finally was able to like hire a nanny because like she had 5 kids. It just got to a point where it was like we need some help.
Yeah.
But my mother definitely was the one there with us day by day most of the time, and my father was working long hours, and we would definitely go visit him on set and stuff. My mom would facilitate all of that, us going on location with them. It would be like a almost like a family vacation to go visit dad on set, in Toronto or Canada, wherever else he was filming. But yeah, it felt like a bit of a split life there too, maybe because it was a lot of time at home with mom, and then dad was kind of coming in and out, and so it was she did a lot.
Gosh.
She's a mother of 5 children, and navigating that was not easy, and yeah, it was just not easy. It was a lot.
Yeah, yeah. What a real one, honestly.
Yeah.
I You mentioned going to like these star-studded parties and then coming home. I'm sure you were like doing homework before and maybe after. Like it was a very
Yeah.
sweet experience. I saw a video. I think you met Zac Efron, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I
Yes.
was this when you were in high school?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, audience, I want y'all to picture in high school, you meet Zac Efron. The way you could flex when you go back to school and be like, "Hey y'all, sorry I didn't finish my calculus. I just was with Zach. Vanessa was there." Like, what was that?
I'm screaming.
Like,
I'm
what was
screaming.
that? Was that your favorite celebrity encounter, like growing up?
Oh my God. It was a big one because, like I said, I'm a theater person. And like, I think I even said in the video that I was Troy Bolton from High School Musical. Like, I lived that truth because I played basketball and I did theater at the same time. And so, like, when that movie came out, I was like, who wrote this movie about my life? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
because I was literally, girl, I remember going from basketball practice straight over to the theater to learn our choreography for stuff. And when the movie came out, I was like, this is me. So I was a big
Wow.
High School Musical fan. Plus, I was a goody two shoes. So I watched Disney Channel a lot longer than a lot of my friends. So anyway, all that to say, meeting Zach was huge. Like, it was right after the first High School Musical had come out, so it was peak fame. And I just was like, I couldn't believe he was there because like we were at this like bowling alley for Chris Massey's birthday party. Chris Massey was on Nickelodeon, and Kyle Massey's his brother from That's a Raven. And so it was like all the stars from Disney and Nickelodeon just like descended on this little bowling alley in Burbank. And I was like, oh my God, Zach Efron is here? Like, are you guys that close of friends? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
But
like,
it was very cool. It was very cool. Is that my favorite celebrity counter? At the time, maybe, but I
sure.
think I think I had a few along the way that really stand out to me, and that is definitely a big one for my Disney Channel heart. Just was
Of
like, oh my god,
course.
like
Of
yeah, he was
course.
everything.
I would have been like, breaking free. We're doing the duet right now. 5, 6, 7, 8, go. Like,
5, 6, 7, 8. I should have done that. If I met him now, I would be like, let's do it. I would have the balls to do it. But back then, I was just like, oh my god, like.
and you know me, like, I was so delusional. I am still delusional, but especially in high school, oh my God, I would have convinced, he would have just looked at me, shook my hand. I would have been like, oh my God, like,
This is it.
he
Yeah.
wants black women so bad. Like, I would have had a whole narrative in my mind.
Uh-huh. 100%. I had a lot of those in my mind about like celebrities that I was gonna meet. Like I remember thinking like as soon as I meet who was it? Who was my guy at the time? Damn, I can't remember. But I had a lot of those, a lot of like as soon as I meet them, they're just gonna notice me and it's gonna be on. Like it's gonna
Pick me out from the crowd, like the
Yes,
whole thing.
exactly. Exactly.
That's iconic. I love it so much. Okay, I want to talk about your branding, which is like this Nepo baby branding. If y'all don't follow her socials, we'll put them in the description. We'll talk about them at the end. But I think it's so smart. I just told you this before we hit record, to have this like Nepo baby branding. Why is that something that you've embraced?
I think yeah, it's been quite a journey, I have to say,
Mhm.
because as you know, like I trained to be an actor. I always wanted to kind of prove myself outside of my dad's name, even though I was like I wasn't ashamed to say that's my dad. I just wanted people to notice me for my work. But as the years went on, I just kind of was like, this could be an angle that I haven't tried before to like get people's attention. And to be honest, it kind of started when the Nepo baby conversation started happening a few years ago, and that they started labeling it Nepo baby. And then I was like, that's me. But like people seem to be kind of mad about it. So like I don't know if I want to talk about it. Like I kind of was unsure. And so it took me some time to get to the point of like wanting to just brand it. And I just one day I was thinking about it, and one of my good friends who's a writer, who helped me write my original pilot, she kind of validated for me this idea. I was like, what if I like leaned into this like Nepo baby thing as a way to get people's attention? Because I wrote this show and about sort of loosely based on my life. And I was like, how am I going to
Oh,
pitch this show with me as the star? Because I have a decent resume, but like, are they going to give me a show? And then I was like, well, if I tell them I'm a Nepo baby, then it has to be me because that's the whole point. Like, and I just, I had spent some time working in marketing at this point, and I was like, this is a marketing tactic. Like, I
yes.
can literally just brand myself this way, and that way it has to be me. And they can't not pick me as the star of my own show because I'm the Nepo baby in question. So my friend and I talked about it, and she was like, yeah, that's really good. And she helped me realize that idea in our script. And then like I just sort of decided, let me just start doing this on social media because like this industry is crazy. Like I'm just like, let me take whatever route I can get to. I think prior to this, I might have thought, social media wasn't really the lane I wanted to go in, but like it's the best way to just put yourself out there and tell people who you are. And so far, I've been so pleased with the response and like the community that has come around to kind of listen to what I have to say. It's been really, really like validating for me.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a marketing tactic in short.
So smart. Okay, wait. I want to come back to this. The pilot. That's incredible. So, were you just
Yeah.
like, do you like writing? Is that like a big part of like your acting world? Okay.
Yeah, so I've always really loved writing. I was more into like creative writing, short stories and poetry growing up, and songwriting stuff like that. And I always thought like maybe I'll turn in that into screenwriting. But
Oh,
obviously, I went to school to be a performer, and I just remember thinking like it would be it would be amazing if I could create my own stuff. And that way I would
mhm.
never have to wait on a job. And so as much as I wanted to go out and audition for other people's stuff, I always admired people who created their own work. The Mindy Kaling, the Tina Feys, the Issa
Hooray.
Rae, Michaela Cole. I mean, those people are my inspirations for creating and starring stuff that only you can do because it's you,
Yes.
and really being the author of your storytelling. That's just always felt very, very true to me. And so this pilot has sort of been in the works for a very long time. It kind of started as a joke with my friend and then became real over time. And I'm still in the process of trying to make it happen. I might go ahead and just self-produce it at this point because that way you just have the most control over it.
Yeah.
But it's a pilot loosely based on my life. um, because something else I talk about in my work is that I was this very devout Christian purity ring wearing girl. And so I wrote a show about two virgins trying to find love in New York City.
Oh,
And I called it No
wow.
Sex in the City because me and my friend, yeah, me and my best friend who lived in New York together at the time, that was our life. And so it started as a bit of a joke, like what is it like we watch these shows like Sex in the City and Girls and all these other shows, and we can't like relate because like everybody's
Mm,
having sex and like we're trying
right.
to wait for marriage. And so I just thought like this would be a funny idea for a show and kind of add some nuance to the conversation around like sexuality and all these things. And over time the show kind of evolved along with my own journey with that stuff. So
Mm.
like it's become something much bigger. And then the Nepo baby thing came in because I decided, oh my God, we should make my character the daughter of a famous gospel music artist. That way it ties
So
directly
good.
into my life. So now it's the story of this gospel Nepo baby trying to like live up to her father's like reputation while trying to find love in New York and be
Oh,
Christian and all these things. So it's a very, yeah,
good.
that's how
That's
the show came to be.
fire. Fire. And
Thank
I
you.
love the idea of, okay, because honestly, this show, I remember looking for stuff. I was like, okay, whose show can I go on and just like rant about this? And like it didn't exist. And I was like, wait, I can just make this. And that's what you're doing with your platforms. Like, I just think that's
Yes.
so brilliant. And it's just such a power move because it takes a lot of authenticity, I think, to do that. Like, being authentic, I don't know how you feel, but for me, being
Mm.
vulnerable online, every time I post an Instagram reel, I literally want to go like jump off a building. It's like the most it's like a humiliation ritual, like literally, but it's like, you know what? To get where you want, you like low key gotta like really lean into that. And I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you for,
Oh,
overcoming maybe any feelings that have, maybe shied you away
thank
from doing
you.
it. Yeah.
No, and you're exactly right. You did this. Like I think that's it's really brave. And I know that sounds extreme and maybe brave compared to other things in the world, whatever. It is brave to put yourself out there. There are so many people who would just sit behind and leave hater comments and never put themselves out there because they know that like you're not always going to get positive responses, but for you to put yourself out there and create the basically the vision that you had in your head is extremely brave and beautiful. And so
Oh.
like you inspire me. I really am inspired by what you've built here. It's beautiful.
Thank
And yeah,
you.
I agree with you. It's so vulnerable. It's so scary. There are some videos that I put out and I definitely sit with my stomach like, oh,
Yeah.
like and my
Exactly.
girlfriend, yeah, my girlfriend and I talk about this too because she makes content as well, more in the educational space.
Oh,
And
cool.
when she watches my videos, she's like, "Oh my god, baby, are you sure you want to say that?" Because like she doesn't really put herself out there like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, baby, we got to be authentic." And I
Wow.
think I have to say, being studying theater, I think helped with that because like being
Mm.
vulnerable and authentic was like your calling card. It's like that's what people want to see in that space.
Wow.
They want someone who's really going to go there. And I think
Mm.
that's a beautiful thing, but it's not something that your average person does in their daily life. We're not encouraged to be this way in the corporate office or whatever it is we're
Right.
doing. So I hope I can bring a little bit of that authenticity to my work and encourage more people to feel comfortable being who they are.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. And when I think of you, I just think of two words, which is like radical authenticity. Like that just
Oh,
feels like
thank
that's what you embody.
you.
Yes, of course. Like you deserve your flowers. And you kind of talked about how just like leaning into this Nepo baby idea was like a marketing strategy, very brilliant. For people maybe in your life that like you hadn't done that before, right? So for people in your life from your past maybe that were like, "Wait, what is Azriel doing? Like did anyone reach out? Like what was the reaction from like friends, maybe even your family?"
Yeah. So I have to say, what's funny is I think my family they kind of don't watch my social media as much as I think I don't know. I think if they watched it more, they would probably have more questions, but I haven't gotten too many questions. But I've also I've been pretty calculated with the things that I will share,
Yeah.
things I won't. I try to be thoughtful. My goal is to never like do like an expose on what it was like to grow up in this home. Like it's not
Right.
really that's not my goal, but with it does mean sharing some things that maybe were not shared publicly before. And I think my father, ironically enough, is a great example of someone who has like been very outspoken about the things he's struggled with in his life. And I
Mm.
think in that same way I looked at my dad and I said, you know, he's has not shied away from talking about that stuff publicly, so I'm not going to either. Like, I'm going to just own this. This is my story. I have a right to say this, and so I'm going to say it. But you're right. I was scared of of my family's reaction. I was.
Mm.
So far, it's been fine. I haven't gotten any like any issues, but we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Like, time will tell. But so far, it's been good. I will say though, I did start talking. I did do a video on my first boyfriend that I ever dated, which was like years. Like, I haven't talked to this man in like a decade, and I don't care to. But I have thought about doing some more story times around some of the crazy dating experiences that I've had, because there have been some crazy ones. And then out of the blue, I got a text from this guy that I dated who definitely would have made it to the story time, and he just was like, I don't know why, but I was thinking about you. And I just was like, like blocked. Like, I do not want to talk to you, because he was so crazy. Like, but I think he was watching my stuff and could see, he was like, she about to call me out, isn't she? Like,
Exactly. He's like, let me get ahead of this before she does.
that's exactly right. And there's some quote somewhere that's like, if people wanted you to write like nice things about them, they should have behaved better. And so
That part.
anybody who, yeah, I'm like, anybody who's worried, it's like, well, you should have been better to me then, you know?
That is so funny. The dating stories are always iconic. My friend Taylor Pippen, her dad is Scottie Pippen. She was talking about like,
Mm.
why would you, as my man, why would you think that I want to see your Scottie Pippen jersey? Like, I just don't care. And it's like, people are so weird.
People are so weird. That is something I've been pretty lucky that hasn't happened to me. Like, I haven't had anybody who's come at me with like stuff about my dad, which would have just made me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I've been pretty lucky in that regard, but I can't even imagine. Like, that is actually horrific.
Isn't that
Like,
insane? Like, I
I would
have guys.
immediately feel so unsafe in that environment. Like, get away from
Totally.
me. You're a
Well, because
weirdo.
you can't read the room. Like, I've had guys send
No.
me my brother's stats, and I don't know what you thought this was, baby, but I didn't even know they were playing tonight. Like, please don't ever in your life. You're blocked
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's weirdo behavior for sure. And like, I like I said, I've been pretty lucky in that regard. But there have been some stuff with friends that's weird.
Mm.
Mainly as a teenager, like when stuff started to really pop off. Like there was one, like the first time I remember feeling like I was being like used was when this like really like popular girl in my class who had like never talked to me before just like came up to me and was being so nice. And like she was like, "Oh my god, hi, like your name's Azriel, right? Blah blah blah." And I was just like, I was kind of shy. I was like a freshman, and I was
Mm.
like, "Oh my god, like she thinks I'm cool," and you get excited. And then immediately after she was like, "So your dad is in White Chicks, right?" Like, "Oh my god, I heard your dad is famous." And I just like my heart dropped. Like, Jenny, I was like, I thought I made a friend, and she just wanted to get to know me for that. And like, to be honest, I don't begrudge people for that, because I do think it's a normal thing. Like, when you find out that, so and so, his dad is this or whatever, it does create excitement. I understand. But like, as a human, it just felt like I'm not seen here. Like, I was invisible. And like, yeah. So I definitely had some instances more like that, where I just felt like you're trying to get to something else through this, and like you're not here for
Right.
me. And I think maybe that's why I don't like tell people it off the bat. Like, I just kind of want to see, like, you want to get to know me or not,
Because I'm like super awesome. So, like, what are we doing? Like, are we
That's what
doing
I'm
me?
saying. Exactly.
It is. Okay, I think that's such a fair take. Like, I understand why you are doing that, and the human me is like, I feel taken advantage of, and like, two
Hmm.
things can be true. You would hope
Hmm.
people would like have some maybe social awareness and not do that,
Yeah.
but like the reality is, I've probably been guilty of that. I remember,
Yeah, me too. Let's be real.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's
totally.
a human thing to do.
It really is. Like, I remember there's definitely been some times where I've done that, like when I was younger, and now I'm like, maybe I should like email that person and like apologize to them, because like that wasn't okay either. So we live and we learn. We live and we learn.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think it's interesting too. So you and your dad obviously have the same last name, and I grabbed this quote from you. I thought it was so good. You said, "The reality is that I cannot escape who my father is, so I have decided to embrace it." I could go a few different ways with this question. Maybe you can reroute me, but I mentioned to you before this, I think it's very interesting how in the Black community, there is so much talk on TikTok. Everyone wants to talk about generational wealth. hashtag generational wealth, and it's like a thirst trap
Mhm.
video. Like everyone, that's like the buzzword I feel like of the year. But when you see Black families like legacies of
Mhm.
wealth and of success, material success, and all this stuff, it's like, oh well, you just had it like that, you just got it like that. But with white families, I just feel like it's not the same narrative. So
Yeah.
when you started embracing, oh, yes, I am Azriél Crews. This is me. My dad is Terry Crews, whatever. How do you feel like the response was from, we can say all communities, you can go specific to the Black community,
Mhm.
because you're also biracial, right?
So my mom is biracial.
Oh, okay.
But she, yeah. So I often say that I call myself Black, but I also kind of relate a bit to the biracial experience because my mother can pass as white. People think she's
Sure.
white, but she's
She's
biracial.
like,
But yes,
oh, half.
yes,
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, talk to me about what that's looked like for you.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that is a deep conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a few things. I think on one hand, I feel like Black Nepo babies are kind of excluded from the mainstream like Nepo baby conversation. It's like, which is kind of ironic because it's like, it's like you want to talk about how this automatically gives people fame and fortune, but you can't even name that many Black Nepo babies when you think about it. Like there's some of them, but like we're not even being included in the conversation. Like, and so I think like that right there is like not all Nepo babies are the same. Like intersectionality is a thing. Like there are lots of other factors that go into whether or not someone is going to like achieve success in the same industry as their parents.
Yeah.
And one of those things being, the willingness of those parents and family to put your child on. And I do think an issue that we face in the Black community is sometimes I do think there's an idea that we need to really prove ourselves. And I guess like something I felt is this like sort of pressure to prove that I don't need the privilege, even though like as a Black person, like why shouldn't I have the privilege? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like
Totally.
something I said in my work is that like I'm a Black queer woman in entertainment. Like of course I'm going to use the one privilege that I have. Like I have so many things going against me, and I'm thick. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's a lot that's working against me. So can I please just be a Nepo baby, please? Like, it's like,
Give me one
um,
thing.
give me one privilege, please. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's really complicated because like it's something Tahira and I talked about. I haven't listened to her episode yet, but something we talked about is like yeah, being Black in this sort of world of sort of perceived like prestige and privilege is complicated because like we're still Black and like
Mm.
that is like we move through the world as Black people, and like I don't move through the world with people knowing who I am. It's like they don't recognize me as Terry Crews's daughter. Like,
Right.
in fact, when I tell people who my dad is, sometimes they're like, "You look nothing like him." Like, what? And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." But
Move on.
yes, he's my daddy. We did the 23andMe. He's my daddy. um, but no, I mean, yeah, it's a conversation that I have a lot of feelings about because I do think that we're held to different standards, and I think that um, sometimes there is even like a bit of I don't know how I would call it some kind of maybe resentment around it, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's interesting though because as someone who's the daughter of someone famous, the assumption is that like we grew up like extremely wealthy, but there are a lot of like wealthy Black families that didn't have fame, who had
Mhm.
like more sort of like privileges in a certain way than I
Mhm.
did growing up. Does that make sense? Like I
Totally.
think
Totally.
yeah, I just think it's such a complicated thing, like actually something I talked about with my partner is that like, her family all has like like advanced degrees. Like she
Wow.
comes from a Black family that like really values that excellence, and like I'm the first member of my family to get my degree. And
Wow.
yeah, like I mean, so it's like in the midst of all this like privilege, there's also other things going on, and I just think it's just a very nuanced conversation. I think that's what I try to bring in my work is like the nuance of it all, and getting to
Yeah.
have conversations like this with you, and like understanding that like yeah, like you probably received some form of privilege from having the family member that you had, and also it comes with a whole host of issues that most people don't understand until they're in that position themselves.
So good. It's so good. My mom always says like multiple things can be true. And I think that totally applies to this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, like just being super transparent. I think for me, even building this show, I always get comments like, oh, if you just like tapped so and so, like someone who has like a who could get me into a room or who could do whatever. They're like, through, your brother knows them. You could just hit them up. But there's a level of pride in me that's like, I feel like
Mm,
I have to prove on my own. I'd be like, God got me here. But you know what I'm saying? Like that I can get there without his help. And it's like,
yeah.
is that right or not? I don't know. Only time will tell. I love him so
Yeah.
much and he would help if I asked. But like at the end of the day, I don't want to get to my like talk show set in person and I get comments. It's like, oh, well, she only did that because Draymond helped her out. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but then you have someone like Alex Earl, no tea, no shade. I think what she's built is incredible, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
come on, like she's had connections, but why is that not? It's
Right.
just not one to
Right.
one, and it's not
It's
fair.
not.
Yeah.
100%. I think I completely relate to what you're talking about, especially with wanting to differentiate yourself and wanting to like set yourself apart for the gifts that you bring and wanting
Mm,
to prove that you are worthy of within your own right and not because of some
yeah.
connection. But I
Yeah.
think what I've learned is that like regard connection or not, even the people that you think just made it by merit, nothing in this world is merit based. Like
Mm,
nothing. Even my father getting where he is, he was in the right place at the right time. He met the right
mm,
people. He happened to be the right kind of person that they were looking for at that particular moment. I mean, it's this industry is just unpredictable and like it's we want to all believe that it's like we live in a meritocracy. We all know that is not true. Otherwise, someone else would be in the White House right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep like
yes.
I just yeah, like it's just like that's not the way the world works. And so I guess I will never begrudge, especially not a black woman. I will never begrudge a black person or a black woman for using the connections and things they have because that is what everybody else is doing. Like that is, it's like that is actually the world we're living in.
Like that part. I also feel like God places people around us very intentionally.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
Lord, like, is it more prideful for me to not use what you've given me than to be like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna white knuckle my way through? Like, come on, like, let's be a little for real. I saw
Yeah.
this reel you made recently where, oh my God, we haven't even talked about this. King, Hamilton King, Christopher Jackson commented, no?
Yes.
Okay, so let me set the
Yes.
scene for the audience. So basically, actually, I'll let you set the scene. Can you explain the video and what you were
Yeah.
commenting on? Because it goes with
Oh my
this.
God. One of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. I made a video stitching an actress who talked about how she got her BFA in musical theater 13 years ago. Her name's Grace Morgan, and she had never been on Broadway, and she kept getting closer and closer and not getting it. She had a family, kind of came back to it. Like she talked about just the grief of like not having achieved her dreams in the time that she thought she could achieve them. And so I stitched her video saying like, yeah, same girl, basically.
Mm,
And I told her how I got so close in so many different opportunities and didn't make it through. And my dad is famous, and him being famous did not get me those jobs. It didn't actually prevent me from that heartbreak either. And I think that's what a lot of people really
mm,
resonated with is that like, oh, like even for this person who seems to have a level of privilege, like it's still just a brutal industry and like we're all kind of in it together. And
mm.
so I was really surprised by the response. I mean, every day I've been getting like likes and comments from actors that I've admired in the theater for years. And like that has blown me away because it
Wow.
shows you that they all get it. Like even the people who have made it, you
Mm,
know, Christopher
mm.
Jackson commented on my page on his birthday, which was so cool. And he wrote basically he talked about just like yeah the second that I hit that Broadway stage my dream was checked off and then what, you know. And he
Wow.
talked about the journey of like he's like I'm on my 11th Broadway show now, you know, it's like the dream has evolved, the dream changes, you know. And he just poured so much love into me. It was so generous and so kind. And another reason why I love theater people, like they're just some of the most like empathetic, like kind people ever. And that really made my life. Like it meant the world to me to have someone like that reach out to me and give me that, you know.
Wow. So
Yeah.
honest and truthful. Thank you. That's what I mean by the radical authenticity. That's just that in action. And it's so beautiful. And I think very telling that there was a community of people that were like, same or like, hey, thank you for sharing this. I relate. You talked earlier about how you kind of were honest with your dad, like, hey, like low key, I wish you did more. And I'm sure that wasn't an easy conversation. What prompted you to voice that? And then also, what was the reaction to him hearing that?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing conversation, I have
Okay.
to say. I think we're still kind of having it like
It's real.
I think yeah, I think that, something I think may be true honestly of just maybe parents of that generation is this idea of like I'm going to give you what I think a parent should give you and you got to kind of come up with the rest. And like not against that in and of itself, but I do think that something that I feel like I've tried to like convince my father of is that like everyone in this industry is doing this for each other. Like, and
Mm,
I think that he, because my father had such tremendous success kind of like out the gate. Like, I mean, it wasn't directly out the gate, but like within a few years, my father was starring on, in very big movies and shows. And like, that is not the normal actor experience, at least based on what I've gone through in my experience and all the actors that I know. No, it's I realized like, dad, this isn't like a merit based thing. Like I know you think that if I'm good enough I'll get the job, but I don't think that's actually what happens. And like so I
mm,
think it's taken some coaxing in that regard, because I think my father really hit the jackpot and like I think kind of was like, well, if I can do it you could do it. And I'm like, that's great, but like actually we're facing some different issues in this industry now, especially, like even getting on a TV show in the early 2000s, that was like a rarity. He was one of like
yeah.
5 black dads on TV at that time. Like, that's crazy.
Wow.
Now there's tons of shows, and many of which will never get seen the light of day. And like, they're paying you really small amounts of money. It's like, it's just like not the same anymore. So I think it's taken some coaxing. Like a lot of like people my age, I think we're having to convince our parents that we're living in a different time now, and like help us out, like, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like
Like, throw me a bone.
throw me a bone or 2 or 3 or 5, please.
Yeah. That's so honest though. And I think to make this more universal for our audience, everyone's kind of had to have those hard conversations with your parents. And if you haven't yet, live longer and you will at some point. Like you could have the most
Yeah.
perfect parents in the world and something will happen naturally. And I think it takes a lot of self-love. Honestly, I think that's an act of self-love and like choosing
Hmm.
yourself to do that.
Hmm.
And I'm glad you did that, even if it is ongoing. I think that's like
Yeah.
such a beautiful example that we can follow.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's tough. I get a little shy to talk about it because I never want to get on here and again do an
No.
expose of like what's been going on. But I do feel that it's important for people to know that just because someone is the daughter of someone famous does not equal they were handed all these things. Like it truly is contingent on what that person was willing to do for their kid, and in many ways. And because like me just going to an audition and saying like my dad's Terry Crews does not do anything. Like
They're
they
like,
don't get
girl, sing the note. Like, what does that mean?
exactly.
Like, what?
Exactly. They said, and like literally.
Girl, anyways. No,
So like
anyways.
and I think like it's funny because I'll get people commenting that now, and I have gotten some haters, which is kind of surprising. I'm like, what are y'all mad at? Like I didn't do anything. But I have gotten some people say like, like, well, if your dad is that famous and you couldn't make it on your own, then that's a reflection of you. And I'm like, what do you
Mm,
think is happening? You think my dad is calling up like the president of like, every network to give me a job? Like that is not how this works. And like even if that is how it worked, that's not like a thing. Like people don't just like
literally.
get handed like stuff like that. And again, there are other things that are at play. Privilege is definitely real, but it's not a guarantee at all for
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 sure.
anything.
For sure. Yeah, there's like definitely, I think, a misconception about how like all this works. I think what I loved so much was the LeBron Bronny conversation about like his
Mm-hmm.
son being in the league. Like we need to get Bronny on the show for sure. I'll invite you back when we do that. But like
Mm-hmm.
it's just
Yes.
that's a whole other thing because it's like oh god, I won't even go down that road. But just the fact that
Yeah.
like you're playing on the same team as your dad, like, you have everybody coming out the woodwork saying he only got here because his dad got him here. Y'all think the NBA is like not a business? Like you think they're just gonna throw that man, throw that boy, that child on the court and be like, Bron, did we like make you happy? Like, please be so for real. Like, please, the
Yes.
haters come out of nowhere. It's
It's so
awful.
crazy. I'm like, I'm like, I get the anger, the frustration of feeling like, oh, they're taking opportunities from other people. I hear that. And it is not by any means a magic trick. Like it's like you said, he also has to like carry the weight of his father's legacy. That is like he comes out the gate with like everyone's opinion already made about him. Like
Exactly.
that is an experience that like only him and like Blue Ivy understand. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's like and that you know, I do think there is an element of like being like that comparison that can come into play, which is yeah, you're naturally going to be directly compared to the person who you descended from, and like I can't even fathom carrying that level. I mean, I have it on a
Me
micro
either.
scale, and it can still feel disheartening because you really just I mean every human being wants to be known for what they want to do, and they want to make their mark on the world. And
Yeah.
coming into this, it's like you're almost like born into like some kind of royalty without choosing it. Like you didn't really choose to be born into this, but you are.
Yeah.
And so now it's like you just got to carry it. But
Gotta
I
go
I
with
can
it.
only imagine what he's been going through.
Girl,
Absolutely.
me
Yeah.
too. Me too. Let me ask you, do you ever pull the my dad is famous card? I love asking guests this because I think
Okay.
both answers are valid.
This is so funny because I did a video on this, and for the first time, I used my dad's name on my birthday to get into a nightclub, and it worked.
Period.
And this was the first time I ever did this. I because I had been tempted to do it before. Like I've lived in New York for many years and gone into lots of nightclubs and like waited in the lines, and in the back of my mind I'm like, should I tell them my dad is famous? But like I didn't want to risk it because I'm like, if I say it and they don't care, it's gonna be so embarrassing. Like, bitch, you thought that was gonna work? Like, no. Um,
Literally. It's humiliating. Yes.
yeah, so I was like, and I also didn't want to come off like let me in, like you know who my daddy. Like I didn't want to be that guy, you know.
Yeah.
But this time around, like we were standing outside, it was cold, all my friends were there. It was one of the best birthdays ever. But like we were standing there and just kind of like looking, and I think the guy was like, yeah, you're gonna have to pay to get in, blah blah blah. And I was like, ugh. And I just had this thought. I was like, you know what? I was a little tipsy, and I was like, what if I told you my dad was famous? And the guy was like, who is he? You know? And I was like, Terry Crews, white chicks. And he was like, I love white chicks. And so I was like, okay. And then he like went inside, and I was like, wait, is this going to happen? And then he comes back out, lets us in. And then he gave us a private section. Girl, I
Shut
had,
up.
I had literally been to this nightclub so many times with all the rest of the people. And he sat us in a private section. We had bottle service, the little girls coming out with the sign. And I was like, what the hell? And all my friends were like, girl, I can't believe it took you this long to do this. Like, we should have been doing this the whole time. It was so fun. And honestly, I felt like it was my birthday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like
Yes.
I'm not going to like, you know, Dunkin' Donuts being like, do you know who my daddy is?
Like,
Give
can
me
I
a
cut the
coffee.
line?
Like, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Like, I was like, it's my birthday. Like, it's like one little treat for me, you know, but that's the only time I've ever done that. I mean, when I'm
So
with my
funny.
father, we get those things naturally because, like, if we go to a restaurant and he shows up, suddenly there's a reservation available, and that's a crazy experience because like again it's like Hannah Montana. I live through the world like a normal person. Like I don't have that, at least not yet, on my
Right.
own. So then when I go with mom and dad, I'm like, hey, you didn't get that table at Nobu, you know. It's like that's a
Yes.
different experience. Yeah. So
Yes, yes, yes. That story is hilarious. And literally, I have told people I have gone to restaurants with my brother, gotten like the most VIP treatment ever being with him, gone
mhm.
back maybe a few months later with friends. They might as well have spit on me. Like, not even like normal treatment, but like
That's
racism,
crazy.
literally. And I'm like, wow,
Wow.
this is
Yeah.
the problem with celebritydom in the United States of America is like the examples that you literally just shared.
100%.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's insane. I'm like, wait, this is weird. Like,
Mhm.
this is not right. And like, you almost feel uncomfortable with it too, because it's like,
Oh yeah.
this isn't cool. Like, oh,
It
don't
feels
get it twisted.
uncomfortable. It feels
Yes.
uncomfortable. I think like one thing that we do that I have gotten spoiled from is that we when we go to theme parks, we get like the VIP guide. And that means we get to skip the lines. And but when we first started doing now truth be told, we first started doing this because my dad would literally get mobbed in the park. Like because he's not someone who can hide. Like, like if
Yeah.
you're like a little like starlet, you can put on a hat and like look like every other girl. My dad cannot hide. Even if he puts a
Right.
hat on, it doesn't matter. You see his body.
Yeah.
And so when we walk through the theme parks, like people come up to him like he's one of the attractions. So we had to start doing the VIP thing and skipping the lines, which, I mean, I'm sorry, it's elite. It feels so good. It's so
Oh, it's
great to be able to
Lux.
hit all the rides. However, I remember one time in particular, like we kind of had to walk in front of like the whole line to like do it. And like
Mhm.
everybody was like, what do they get to go? Like yelling and stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like, it's like, I don't want to be like on the wrong side. Like I don't want to, I get it. Like I'm with you most of the time. I only get
Right.
this privilege when I'm hanging out with my dad. Like,
It gives like clear and pre-check, like when you're in the line for security at the airport, then clear
yeah.
comes through and you're like, hold
Yes.
on, like I was in line longer.
100%. It's that. It's the TSA pre-check. It's all of
The
that.
clear
And
of it
it's like
all.
the clear of it all.
That's
Yes.
so funny. I love it. I love it. Well, I know we're coming up on time, but I want to end with I always like to just ask my guests for any advice they have for someone who's struggling to like claim the fullness of their identity.
Mm.
Obviously, that's been a lifelong journey for you and maybe still continuing, but what would you say to them?
Ooh, that's good. I want to say first of all, thank you for noticing my authenticity and noticing my concerted effort to be authentic. That
Yeah.
is something that really is like my life mission, and I think it's something that I want to encourage other people to do is like embrace who you are, not who someone else wants you to be. It sounds kind of cliche, but I think I've had to do a lot of like self work on like, who am I outside of this, outside of that, outside of this. And I think that what I've learned is that choosing to be authentic in this world that we're living in now is extremely brave. It's extremely difficult. And I think ultimately, as I've seen in the last few months that I've started kind of coming out with this content, it's actually led me to more abundance. And I think
Mm.
I was kind of shying away from talking about this part of my life because I knew that it would have people would have opinions about it and stuff like that. And I think once I just said, like, I don't care about that, I'm just going to do it anyway. Like, I was surprised by the reaction and the love that actually found me. Like, it's not like I am getting some haters now and there, but like I'm getting a lot of really amazing community from this and a lot of people who actually are really interested in hearing about me. And I think that I was scared that by like attaching myself to my dad's name, it would be the opposite. And so I guess in that way, I learned to just embrace what is unique about me. I am the daughter of a famous actor, but I'm also so much more. And like the people who want to know more are gonna find me and they're gonna stay with me. Um, but I think it's authenticity is something that I just believe we're all here to do. Like we're all here to just be the person that we were born into, like to live out our individual purpose and individual truth. And I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot in this time of like political unrest and like civil unrest is like we could look at the world and go it's all on fire because it is in many ways, or we could say like what can I do in my individual life and community to make it better. And like I
Mm.
think staying in my lane and staying focused on like what do I believe I was here to do, what do I want to do in the world, how do I want to change my little corner of the world. I think that's how we change the world, as a whole. It's like we're each here to follow our own individual journey, not someone else's. And it's something I'm still kind of grappling with, to be honest, but I'm trying to lean into it. Um, I don't know if that's like can be summed up, but yeah.
You're preaching. I understand why you did the pilot with like the gospel dad, because girl, you preaching down right now. Like that was so good. And as you
Oh,
were
thank you.
talking, one, I want to affirm you. It radiates off of you, truly, the
Hmm.
authenticity. And the other thing I wanted to say is being yourself in 2025 is an act of rebellion. And with
Mm.
rebellion comes pushback. in there comes struggle. Like I was telling my therapist the other day, I'm like, self-work, it sounds so cute. I'm in therapy. Baby, no. That mess, like kicking and
Yeah.
screaming. It's not fun. It's not cute. There's nothing glamorous. Like think about like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It's not a
Yeah.
cute process, right? But like
Mhm.
undergoing it, undergoing the pressure and all of the yuckiness, you get this. You get the Azriel, you get the fullness of who you are. And I just think Jesus didn't die on the cross for us to live small. Like I love that you're
Mm.
being yourself and just embracing who you are. I just think that's beautiful and
Mm.
just such a great example for me. Not even for the audience. This is for
Mm.
me. Like I'm inspired truly. So thank you just so much for
Oh.
coming on.
Thank you. And I'm inspired too. I really think that you're a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You know, it's like
Oh,
you were looking for a space where people could talk about these things and so you created it. And it's like, yes, like that's what I think we should all be doing, you know. And
yeah.
I have to say, as someone who I still obviously want to be an actress and I'm still working in that direction, but I think for a long time I wanted to be chosen. Like I wanted to be like I wanted the director to pick me. I wanted the man to pick me, and it turns out I'm queer. So that's a whole other thing. But I think I wanted to be chosen by all these different things, and it's like I just got to a point where I'm like, no, I'm going to choose me. I'm going to choose myself, and I'm going to choose what comes naturally to me and what I feel is more in alignment with myself.
Mm,
And I think that is a shift that happens when you decide to just, as Gandhi might say, be the change that you're trying to see in the world
mm.
instead of maybe waiting on it or looking to others to bring it out of you. Just do it. And you did that with this. And now we're
Thank
here and
you.
we get to meet and it's beautiful. So
Thank
congratulations to you
you.
for that.
Thank you, Queen. Guys, I paid her to tell me all that, but thank you so much. That's
Yeah, I
so
think the Zell went through, right,
yeah,
hun?
I like
Okay, yeah.
it's coming, it's coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's so real about wanting. We could probably do a whole other. You'll have to come back. You, me,
I
and
would
Tahira.
love
Okay, I'm putting
that.
this in the air. You, me, and Tahira. If you're watching, we're gonna text you. We're just gonna have to do like a episode of us three because there's a lot there that
There's a lot.
we'll do a part two. Yeah.
I love it. Oh, and this has been so wonderful and so life giving to just share this
Oh,
space with you. So thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
so happy. Thank you. And y'all, you know what I'm about to say. Jesus loves you. Jesus sees you in a way that no one else ever could. So thank you for being here and cheers to you. Mwah. Bye.